Hey guys, Booligan here with Booligan Shooting Sports. I have always been a fan of the B&T USW, which is that kind of standalone defensive, offensive pistol platform with a nice little side folding stock that B&T put out a couple of years ago. I've always thought that design was super cool. I unfortunately don't like the fact that if you would like to purchase one and then Form 1 it as an SBR, it would cost you something like 2,300 to 2,500 bucks last time I checked. Don't like that. So I decided to use some of my experience with designing Glock pattern frames to design the USW at home. What this is a 3D printable kit, a frame, a modular top cover, and a side folding arm brace setup, a variation of my Booley brace design that gives you a lot of the same functionality as the B&T USW, but something that you can build yourself for like $300. So let's talk about this. The base frame architecture is the FMDA DD19.2. So this is a 19 length slide and barrel. However, I elongated the grip to make sort of a 19X or a G45 format. So it has a full length Glock 17 size grip. This makes for more of a like duty weapon size grip, but with a, still that relatively compact barrel setup. It has the typical accoutrements that you'd have on a frame. You've got a rail for mounting optics, in this case for mounting lights or lasers, in this case a TLR7. Just basic, I had one laying around. I designed the grip panels, if you will, to resemble one of the early B&T USW designs with a little diamond pattern there in the stippling, and it's fun. It's cosmetic design mainly. It's not the most high friction grip out there, but it does work pretty well. I also designed it to have a squared off trigger guard, and that included squaring it off at the back. The reason behind the squaring off at the back is I do most of my Glock pattern prints printed rails down, so printing like that on the bed. And what happens pretty often is no matter how good my support settings are, that curve that naturally exists there tends to curl because it prints a very thin layer and it's sort of an exaggerated curve there, and it tends to curl, and I've had a lot of prints fail kind of no matter what I do with my print settings or change my materials or whatever else. They tend to fail right there, and because what happens is it'll curl and then the nozzle will catch it, even with Z-hop enabled and all that jazz. The nozzle will catch it and then it'll cause you to have just a slight layer shift, and that sucks when that happens because you've printed quite a bit up to that point. So I just squared that off and it fixed that problem completely. It did leave a pretty thin section there. So before we go too crazy into this is currently in beta on my subscription website. So we're testing it out, identifying where the failure points are going to be, whether it's there. We have this as a failure point as well that will likely need some beefing up. But yeah, the overall ergonomics of this are pretty basic Glock 17 grip. Which means you can run all sorts of magazines. This is a factory length 17 round magazine. If you want to run something a little longer, like the Magpul 21 rounders, that fits the look and feel of this quite good. If you want to go absolutely bananas and fit something like the 40 round Chris Mag X2 on there, you absolutely can. You can go just kind of silly with it. What the secret sauce of this is and how this really works, you'll notice this thing has the world's longest beaver tail. It goes forever. The beaver back of the frame ends right here, and it's got a couple of points where this top cover is attached. This top cover is modular in nature, so it ties in here at these 2 points and at the front, that pin, the top pin in the locking block for the Glock 19 pattern locking block. It ties in there to bridge this all together. And I designed it, this particular one, to have the same mount footprint up top for a T1 style optic. So in this case, a Sig Romeo 5, which is a fantastic, fantastic budget optic. Like, I've got a bunch of these. They're great. I love the Romeo 5. At the rear, it has an integrated sling mount here. So this whole loop at the bottom is an integrated sling mount. And then it has a slightly revised, reinforced, and shortened version of my Booley brace architecture for the hinge setup here. And that it's all one piece. That way you don't have like a rail on the back. You don't have any unnecessary bulk. The whole idea behind this build was to build it without a lot of unnecessary bulk. Try to be as minimalist as possible. That required making some changes to the brace itself. It's about 8 millimeters shorter. And I redesigned the brace arm, in this case, to have a dogleg drop. That way, when you're using it as a brace, it actually allows you to strap it to your forearm and keep it at the correct place. One of the issues that the ATF has currently with certain brace designs are when they're angled, and then the brace arm is angled, and it kind of forces the gun either down or up. It forces it in a way that you can't actually use it as a brace. I don't care how you use it, but I have to design this to be used as a brace. So it's got that nice drop leg or dog leg drop down to make it so that you can use it as a brace. Incidentally, it's also a really kind of perfect cheek position for aiming right down the center of a T1 style optic. There are no mistakes. There are only happy accidents. It folds pretty easily. I was running it before with just a 1/4 inch bolt that was bolted into the bottom, but I've since switched it to the more stable 1/4 inch by 2 inch cotter or a clevis pin design with a cotter pin. And of course, the spring here is a factory bed spring from an Ender 3, because we all upgrade those to those nice yellow springs. And we usually have some of these spare springs. They are fantastic for this. It's really designed around it. It needs to break in a little bit, but occasionally you can get a good flip out on it and kind of one hand to deploy it. That's sometimes. That's why I designed it to fold to the left. It would make more sense for it to fold to the right so that you could actually like holster the thing, but then deploying it does require that second hand, where in this case, you really can deploy it with that one hand and be ready to shoot. So that's the third part of this, is this dog leg brace, and it is actually designed to print on its side as well, which is something new for me. I haven't done that with this brace design, but this whole thing uses like not a ton of support material. It prints quite easily. I really try to design it for ease of printing. In beta, what we're keeping an eye on are the failure points. And because this rear assembly prints straight up, your failure points are these. Now, these don't take a lot of stress. It's tied in really solidly at the rear with the two M3 screws that go through that secure it at the rear. This is where most of the like attachment forces are coming from. This up here is just to bridge it, just to keep it from having any unnecessary strain put on it in this motion. You've got an arm brace here at the rear that's applying forces to it. You've got the optic up top that has kind of a potential for like a pendulum effect. So these arms up front really are for just some extra stability. Whether they're necessary or not, we'll find out. And also whether they break or not. I've already thickened it once from this version to the version that's currently in beta. I realized that I had an opportunity that I could add about 1 millimeter of extra material here, so I had done that for the one that's in beta. But overall, it should be pretty solid, but this is why we test. It'll be fun to test out and see if it breaks. For the slide on this guy, I decided to try out finally one of those PSA dagger slides, and I am really, really impressed with it. If you don't know, the PSA dagger is from Palmetto State Armory, and it is a Gen 3 Glock 19. It's a Gen 3 Glock 19 clone. It uses Gen 3 Glock 19 parts. Everything's cross-compatible. It works fine. They sell the slides alone as well as completed guns, but the slides that they sell are available in a couple of different configurations. You can get them milled for an optic, you can get them without, you can get them with a threaded barrel, you can get it with a regular barrel, you can get it with suppressor sights, you can get it with non-suppressor sights. They sell them in different colors, they sell them in different cuts, and they're super cheap. The one that I bought, it's not cut for an optic because I don't need to run an optic on it. If you are running a slide with an optic, I have a top cover that utilizes an optic, a cutout for an optic mount. We're still testing that out. I think that might remove too much material to make it stable, but that's one of the things that we're testing. But yeah, I went with a non-optic mount, threaded barrel. I wanted to have a little bit of extra length up front just to keep my hand from getting in front of the barrel. And the cool part about it is it does have front cocking serrations. So some people have asked when I've shown this design, so do you have a charging handle or what? You don't need a charging handle with this. Like, you really just grab the front and you manipulate the slide like normal. It's just, instead of grabbing it from the rear, you're grabbing it from the front. You can also do a press action. This is how the actual B&T USW does. It has a specially machined slide, which has like an extra like cocking grip up top. And I might be designing something that attaches to the front sight hole, sort of like how I attached the top cover for the Halo Magnum. That's something I might be working on if this proves to need more material. But honestly, like, I haven't had any issues with it. You can also still access the slide catch lever on the side. So, when you're out of ammo, you can put a fresh mag in and just manipulate that, and you're back in business and ready to shoot. But yeah, I bought this slide, this PSA one. It was on sale, and it was like $179 with the slide, with the barrel, with all of the components inside, with the sights, with everything. It was a complete drop-in slide, and it was under $200 shipped to my door. That's kind of crazy pricing wise, and that's really what leads this to being a super affordable build. I'm running Aves rails in here with their locking block. That's an inexpensive setup. I'm running a cheap eBay lower parts kit. That's an expensive setup. Not counting the optic, because I already had one, but not counting the optic and the light, this is something like a $305 build. Add the other stuff on there, and you've got it still well under $500 for a complete little setup here. It's a very inexpensive way to do it, and that really does come as a credit to these PSA Dagger slides. So yeah, that's the overall look and details of this project. I don't have a good name for it. I just sort of started calling it the G19X USW, which is not a good name. We jokingly refer to it as the USW at home, because it's always, I want a USW. Well, we have USW at home. This is the USW at home. So yeah, we'll probably come up with a better name for it, before it's released. But overall, I really, really like this setup. A lot of my gun designs that I do are kind of silly. I mean, this guy is giant and has a knife that comes out the front. Like, this is very silly. This is silly design work. It's fun, but it's still silly. This is a little less silly. This actually has some practical applications. It's a lot more compact than some of the other like chassis style builds for like Glock pattern guns that are out there. Digital Nimbus, his Invader design is fantastic. It's a really cool design. It's got that spare mag holder up front. It's just a little much. This is something that is a lot more compact and can easily fit in like a bag if you're out hiking or something. Or I mean, hell, if you feel like having it carried on a sling, you can carry it on a sling. And we'll I'm gonna try to work with some companies to figure out some good holster options for this. There are some holster options even with this brace arm on the side. But yeah, overall, that's it. That is the USW at home. I hope you guys like it. As I said, it's currently in beta on BooliganShootingSports.com. We've got guys printing it and giving their feedback on it and making design changes based on that. And then once we have it all finalized, like all of my files, it'll of course be released on BooliganCustomGunworks.com, which is the website that links to my Odyssey page. All of my files are available for free. I hope you enjoyed this tour of this platform. And stay tuned because I have a range day planned for this weekend. I have pneumonia, kind of finally kicking this pneumonia that has been kicking my butt for the last couple of weeks. Sorry if my video production schedule has been a little spotty because of that. But yeah, finally going to get back out to the range and test this and do some other fun stuff out there. So as always, thanks for watching.